Hello guys and welcome to our channel. This is Firebrand. In today's video we are talking about the balance batch preview for 29th November. There was a stream from the developer on Twitch talking about all the nodes that we will see changes, so we can talk about it, discuss it, and they maybe would iterate on any changes or stuff like that. So I will talk about the things that means the most to me, which is Ranger, and maybe touch on the things I find important or exciting around the batch in general. So let's start with Druid, which is small changes, and then move to the main chunk, which is the Untamed. So for a start, Druid getting more buff for its healing for world versus world in order to push it a little bit for more support role to keep up with firebrand, scrubbers, even elementalist healing and stuff like that. So they're buffing staff, since staff healing is a little bit weak, which is supposed to be the main weapon for that. They're increasing astral wisp healing by double basically, so you can target an ally or an enemy and do that healing fields that move around your target, and that is doubled. And Ancestor Grace, which is a skill you get to use to move around, and if you use it on an ally, it will shave 5 seconds of the cooldown and it will give your bit protection if you used it actually and your bit was one of the targets that get it. So this skill is very good for mobility and resustaining yourself and even healing your allies. If you run into something like quick draw, this cooldown can be shaved even further, and if you run into the staff support, it can be a little bit insane. So I switch weapon and I will use it and switch bit, and immediately it is resetted. And I don't have an ally, it's 15 seconds. If I have allies, only 10 seconds, and I can use it again. And if you use this skill in a water field, things can even get a little bit more exciting. So as you see, the blast combo will heal me for 1k 514, and the healing of the skill is 2420 as stated on the tooltip itself, because my healing power, I don't even run full healing bar or stuff like that. I'm only 970, it's less than 1k. Compo blast finisher will stay the same, but this one will be increased. It's something will be closer to like 3k or something like that, so it will be very decent. It's like an extra healing skill if you use it this way, add into the regeneration. And if you teleport around with it, if you're running a build with quick draw or stuff like that, it can be a decent reset style. So it's nice to find it to be this effective, especially that it is the only actual healing skill, like you hit and you heal for a number in the entire staff weapon. So that was the main thing for Druid. And also they are trying to tone down the Untamed in PvP, so they are nerfing Chump, which is a skill for the Drake family, reducing its bar coefficient in PvP only. That also affect core power rangers, but it's not really a big deal, I guess. They already nerfed tail swipe, which was the main thing to begin with. Now there is an unique change coming to everything ranger, and it's mainly targeted to the Untamed. So the Untamed has a problem that there is so many things. The class is designed around CCing the enemy and applying an extra benefit, like capitalizing on an enemy being completely under control by knocking them down, days, locking them in an area, whatever kind of CC you do, and you do more on it. However, in PvE that was quite a problem, since if you're fighting an enemy with a defined bar, that is not possible to use anything of all those benefits, even the DPS increase, unless the enemy is stunned. The defense bar broke and you get those 5 second stun, and that's if the enemy actually is stunnable. So some enemies even can have a locked defense bar, which you can't CC them at all, so you can't even get any benefit of this. That is really bad for PvE play. So however, they're changing everything that work like this in Ranger to work around defense bar too. So it will happen on defense bar enemy, and it will happen with the CC normally. Like Ancient Seed for Druid. For Druid, Ancient Seed will not trigger on an enemy unless you actually break their defense bar, and then it will happen in those 5 seconds it's stunned, and you have to wait for the defense bar to regenerate, break it again in order to apply Ancient Seed. Right now, as you see here, this skill will now trigger against defined foes in addition to its previous effect. And also for Core Ranger Predator Onslaught, which already was a trait that can work, because it doesn't only work in CC'd enemy, it works on embedding movement. So if they are crippled or immobilized or chilled, which usually will always happen, you even on a Core Ranger can cripple the enemy easily. But now the trait will be effective with the defense bar in general, so not only movement embedded. And we see that pattern completely going with the Untamed. The unleashed bit skills, Venomous Burst, Rending Vine, and Enveloped Haze So if you go with the untamed, you see those three effects as unleash pit. You do an extra vulnerability if the enemy is CC'd, and poison in both cases. This one do some damage, remove wound, but you can also do a slow. This one will pulse chill. However, all those effects only happen if the enemy is already CC'd, which not only is very silly because it will happen in 5 seconds the enemy CC'd, it will lose their value. You need the slow, you need the chill in order to break a defense bar, but if the defense bar was already broken, those skills are completely pointless. The enemy is not doing even anything. And I already talked about this as one of the untamed problems since the beta and touched on it even in the build video, and finally Arianet is coming to fix it. So all those skills have changed, and hammer skills also seen some really decent changes to everything that will function on in its CC. So when you go to Unleashed Hammer, you find Skill 2 will increase damage by 20% against disabled foes, and Skill 4 will also increase damage to disabled foes by 20% and 2% for each condition. The condition part is fine, doesn't have a problem, but the 20% part for both skills were not possible. Again, you will find it against defense bar enemy will function just fine without the CC itself. And skill 5, they are tuning the cooldown in World vs. World and PvP to match PvE by 20 seconds only, which is very decent since honestly Ranger could use some of mobility on the hammer. If you remember the video, I will leave it in the description, and made fun of this skill and I called it like a 1000-year hit because it's too slow to apply the hit. 1 second cast time was too long in my opinion. So again, Arianet is finally fixing it by lowering the cooldown to 3/4 of a second, only 0.75, which might be decent enough because this skill can be very punishing to enemies, and if you can cast it faster now, the first hit will apply the immobilize, which means the enemy will eat all the hits that will cascade by themselves, and you can capitalize on it by more CC. So this immobilize will be very easy to hit. Even so, the radius is very small, but with an untamed with a really good hand in melee, it can be punishing. So Arianet, in a way, wanted to give it a more counter. So they switched the weakness with the immobilize. The first hit with a small radius will apply the weakness, and the second hit is the one that applies the immobilize. So if the enemy saw the animation and still didn't dodge within the first hit, they will eat the immobilize and it will continue normally. Their fault at this point. But if they did, they can dodge and they will miss the whole thing. Or the rest of it basically. And if they at least get the first hit, you will still apply weakness, so it will be a bit defensive, which is a theme we will see trying to change how the hammer works. They will add a lot of defensive style on it, since the hammer is very difficult to survive with. It almost have nothing even in PvE, but now they will add a little bit of stuff to it. So weakness will be immediately on demand for a start, which is very decent in competitive modes, and then the immobilize will happen with faster casting. And it also can be a decent thing for the immobilize, since immobilize will work on a 240 radius, not 120, which means it can be more effective if you land it in the end, better than counting more on the weakness, since you can lock more people easier or on a bigger radius. As you see, it's on this one. And for the defensive styles that added to the hammer, both skill 2 without the unleash, this one, and skill 3 will actually apply barrier on hit. So you can be a bit bruisery or tanky when you're facing your enemy. There's some lowering to the cooldowns in PvP and World vs. World to make it more usable, I guess. It's for the skill 3, both the normal and the unleashed one, getting their cooldown match PvE, and skill 4, both the unleash and the normal one, also getting lowered to 15 seconds in PvP and World vs. World. And as we already said, thumb for the unleashed and the normal one matching PvE for 20 seconds instead of 25. The unleash ambush skill for the hammer actually used to do, as you see, 1 stack for 2 seconds stability. It will be increased to 2 stacks for 3 seconds. So a little bit of a nice addition to how it's function, making you again more bruisery, more to the face of the enemy, and a bit tanky with better control. So they make hammer a little bit better. Will that make hammer actually great enough or worth it? We'll see, I guess. Right now, even for PvE, if you wanted to use a great sword, it used to be the better damage because the problem was the defense bar, but the defense bar problem is removed, so you have a better weapon with better CC and many damage source. It's better than great sword. However, there is a fundamental problem with the hammer, which is the best weapon in PvE, no matter what you play. For the meta build that everyone know right now, it's the most broken build in the game for Untamed, the one with the alacrity and stuff like that, or even my build for open world, which is favorable because you're moving between fight faster, so and still have a stun break, so it's better than the meta one. However, all those builds use X, because X was very useful with resetting very low cooldown hits. It apply or how give you boons and apply even conditions. It's just very usable. So it was the main weapon no matter what the build. So hammer will need to take off that or topple it and become the most effective. Right now hammer is usable. You don't have to play this build that everyone trying to play. But will it make it really maybe the best onslaught? Not necessary. At least it will be good enough. Even I'm excited to give it a run finally or try a power untamed. We'll see. And that get us to the last point here, which might actually make hammer the best, but not in 29th November. It's something will happen probably later. As you see here, they talking about, well, a trait everyone can be considered a little bit broken, which is fervent force. Untamed is the ultimate beast. It is probably the strongest class in the game right now. If you wanna play the broken build people talking about, even I think my TT-bot already played a video using it, following the new strike. It is a very strong one. Or even if you play in my build, fervent force is really strong in resetting things, so it apply or give you the ability even to reset healing skills with many other skills, which mean you will heal a lot, you will use the new elite and you keep resetting it through hits, your bit hits and CC. With that amount of resetting, you can be an insane tank. In open world PvE, it will apply or get affected even by special mechanics like magnetic poles that you buy from the way station thing of the char. So you keep resetting things very easily. So they decided they will look into it. They try to nerf it, but not before actually buffing the other trait options, which we will get into now. If they nerf fervent force enough to actually make them reset or the X build, as it depend a lot on reset, is not as effective, or if it demand more CC by lowering the amount of reset, hammer can be even more effective at this point. We will look into it when we get to it, I guess. However, hammer is getting much better right now, and that's simply nice. It is a buff, it's making a weapon very effective. I would like to see hammer actually being a good enough weapon for me to enjoy it and depend on it, since I like hammer use from day one in the game, but we'll see, I guess. And I have a lot of hammer skins that I would like to use. That gets us to the last skill before we go to the trait, which is the healing skill for the Untamed. The new healing skill right now for the Untamed giving you an effect for 3 seconds that will prevent you from taking any lethal damage. So if we stand for the damage here and we using it for 3 seconds, we cannot die. As you see, we take the damage but nothing happened. And it will heal us by 50% of the health lost. Since I didn't have any health, it will give me half of my health exactly. It works the same for the bit, it will do the same for both of us. It will not be only preventing lethal damage from now on, it will be buffed to stop all incoming damage, whether it's condition, whether it's power, for 3 seconds on use. You use it, it's basically, you can still be hit, you can still get condition applied to you, can still be CC'd or everything, but you will not take any damage. It's like half invulnerable in a way, think about it like that. So will that make me use it? I'm not sure. It might be very good for bar builds when you're glassy in PvE. It might be good for bar builds in general in competitive modes or stuff like that. Having invulnerability in competitive in general, or the ability to not die or even stop damage completely, is very good. Other than that, for me, for PvE, since I play Untamed mainly for PvE, it's still a 30-second cooldown, and that's a turn off. I mean, it's very good as a mechanic. You can push and save dodges and take damage easily when you're soloing stuff, but I never really need it. The class is very tanky already, so for now 20-second cooldown with a very good healing that you can keep reset to CC might be better. So I'm not very sure. Maybe having a lot of CC or doing a build with too many CC to reset it with fervent force and getting stability from it, it would see some use. I mean, it is a buff in the end, but with that cooldown, I'm not sure if I would be using it instead. Now for the last part, So in PvE only, debilitating blow will be changed. Instead of vulnerability, you would be putting poison, and instead of weakness, you will be putting slow, but not in competitive. Might think about it instead of this one, but this one do a lot of damage, so I'm not very sure. They might both be good options, depend on how much the poison or how it scales. It would worth the look. Now for the last trade, like we said, they want to nerf fervent force, but it's not coming the next balance patch, so they are buffing both of those traits. So restorative strike, giving you 5% of all your power damage, not condition, I wished it was both, to 5% healing. 5% of that damage apply healing to you. It was nerfed from 10%. Right now, when you unleash or unleash your bit, it will give you protection. So I'm not sure what will be the internal cooldown or how it will function. It simply said it will give you protection, so it's a little bit add up. And protection would work very nicely with wilderness survival if you could fit it in your build, because it will heal you because rugged growth rate. So we will see that on release and how it will work. Now ferocious symbiosis also got buffed, 3% damage and 5% movement speed. This 3% damage got increased to 4%, so a total of 20% increased damage, which is a bit decent. And like I said, fervent force is staying the same. So that's it for the ranger changes. Nothing touched on soul beast, it is completely fine, so it's mainly buffs. There is not a single nerf except for the Drake bit. So I'm excited to see how this will work. Really excited to give a try for the hammer, and we'll see. Other than that, I would say I'm mostly excited for holosmith. So I will be leaving the build in cards and in descriptions. You can check it, but my favorite way until this point into play power in PvE was holosmith, not ranger. Most ranger power builds I do not enjoy, neither in competitive or even in PvE, to be honest. My favorite way to play power in general, it's like the only build I really enjoyed was holosmith. Even after introducing the mechanist, I'd still say I would favor the holosmith in general. It was very tanky. It was part of a series I made on making best builds that will help you whatever you're doing. If you're soloing stuff, doing meta events, farming, whatever you do, it will have all the tools in hand. It will have decent sustain, high damage, good CC, range and melee. It will have all the kits usable in hand. And for the holosmith, it was very good, especially it was able to keep protection almost indefinitely, so it made it really bruisery, really strong. It just fight to the face of the enemy while playing power, not counting on toughness or vitality much, simply on boons and protection and just being aggressive. So a lot of changes that kept building on each other for the engineer, and this time a lot of buffs for the holosmith, so I'm excited to look into it again. And I would say Guardian got insane changes for Firebrand that I will have to look into, because probably the older builds on the channel will not really work anymore. So I'll be looking into it and see how this gonna be fitting, because Firebrand now will have access with no time to any tomb, but it will have tombs outside of the books themselves, or pages outside of the tombs, which mean they share pages and they using it by numbers. Even it completely different play style. You can't keep the passives of all the tombs, only choose one. There's some heavy changes. It will require looking on release. This is in the end a raw footage video, like my initial thought just after watching the stream. So like I said, more things to come with time after the actual release, and keep looking to the skills. So that's it for the video. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.